So.
I need to cut. I'm sorry, I need to cut.
Welcome in, guys, to the Grease League podcast. We're going to be going over Week 7 and beyond. I am your host, Jeff, and this is also my host, JB, over here. JB, you'd like to break it down a little bit.
Hello, friends. We've got a quick ad read from our friend of the program, Viagra. They're a great sponsor. Viagra, they just want to make your dick hard. So if your dick's getting soft, you have problems with it, you still want to bang, take Viagra. You won't regret it. Now we are on to our program.
Sounds good. So, guys, also I want to say we're sponsored by Toad Up. So if you're getting a little bit drunk on a night, you're feeling a little bit toed up, you're still going to make it home all right. You don't want to get trash. You don't want to get just a little buzz. You're trying to get toed up. Thanks, guys. So, first and foremost, I think we want to go over a little bit of the basic layout of what we're going to go over on these podcasts going forward. So, first thing, we're going to break down each NFL matchup of the week. We're going to go over some fantasy-relevant players as well as just in general some betting lines because who doesn't love a little gambling action anything? Is that right, JB?
I know. I love it myself, man. Couldn't tell you enough. It's burned me and it's made me quite happy.
That is for sure. And we're also going to be going over some trade breakdowns of the week, a little bit of hot takes, and then any other kind of discussion that may or may not come up. So I want to first break into a little bit of news around the NFL, a little bit of fantasy relevance. So first and foremost, Austin Hooper, I'm sorry, Steve, but he had an appendectomy. So Austin Hooper will
I've
not
been
be
through it, Steve. It's not fun.
You will not be making it in this week. So please make sure you take him out of your lineup. If you do not, you will be bye week once again. Next I want to go over is actually Emmanuel Sanders has now been placed on the COVID-19 list. So he will no longer be able to be played as well. I believe, Rigel, he might still be on your team, but try not to put him in your lineup as well. Other than that, not really too many notables going around. The Raiders-Buccaneers game is a little bit in the air, but we'll cover that a little bit more when we get to that segment.
What I am going to add in here is that we had another trade today of minor significance. We had Marcus Golden, one of my favorite Giants. He had himself a hell of a season last year. We're paying him $3.25 million, $2.25 guaranteed, and we can't keep this fucking guy. I don't get it. Dave Gettleman, let it be known for the program, as everybody knows, me and Jeff are Giants fans, so they will be incorporated into this podcast. We traded him back to his home, the Cardinals. I'm glad that Bruce can have him. But I love myself some Marcus Golden, and if you're going to trade him, at least get something fucking worth it back instead of a 6th-round pick.
So here's where I want to put in my take on it, because honestly, I don't mind this trade, because the Giants, after that loss, they are firmly in the retooling phase, and as well, Marcus Golden, he's going to have to get signed for some pretty good money next year. So, yeah, the 6th-round pick is pretty fucking garbage, but at the same time, he was not even playing a role on the team this year. The defense coordinator for the Giants has been doing a pretty solid job. I think that side of the team has been doing well, and Golden has not been utilized too much because it seems like his role just was not there. So I think that it's not a bad trade, and I don't mind it at all.
You know what, man? The only thing I can think of is what are you really going to get from a 6th-round pick? We're not the Patriots drafting out here. We're the goddamn Giants. So do you really think a 6th-round pick is going to help us? You're paying him a dirt cheap deal. Anything you can have around the defense to help you out, I see as a positive, even in a season like this where we're pretty much going down the fucking toilet.
And that's kind of where I go with it, is that we're already down the toilet, so a guy that we're going to end up having to pay at least $10 a year, probably not worth it. But all in all, I think we should move on to the next part of the week, is that we're going to be going over the matchups.
This will be a fun segment. As you guys know, me and Jeff like to gamble, but I'm sure I'd be willing to bet there's a few of you out there that also maybe have that itch. So we're going to go through NFL matchups of the week. We're going to pick winners based on the spread. I'm sure we won't agree on everybody, so we're going to have some conversation based on that. Yeah. And we're going to go line by the week. We'll start with Lions-Falcons. This might be a good matchup right off the bat, because I'll tell you what, Jeff, I'm going to go Falcons -2.5 right off the bat. And I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
Because Matt Ryan is still Matt Ryan, even though the rumors, he might get traded. I don't really buy that. Maybe it'll happen. I believe Julio getting traded more than Matt Ryan, personally. With all that being said, I think you've got Matt Ryan, you've got Julio Jones, you've got Calvin Ridley. no matter the Falcons' woes this season, you've still got a potent offense. Now, where I'm worried is the defense, because their defense, although they have some big names like Grady Jarrett, are, between you and me, fucking trash, in my opinion. So, beyond memeage, I think the Falcons can cover a field goal against the Lions.
So this is where I think you're wrong. I think this Lions team, and yes, the Lions are my second team, I think they will take the Falcons to town because that Lions offense with Kenny G back with that sweet saxophone, beautiful music, takes Matt Stafford up a fucking other level because he's got this stud of a player that can catch anything, can fucking run any route, and that offense is cooking. And my boy Matty Stafford, the comeback kid, is going to take the Falcons to the fucking town this week because I know that Lions team is going. That is my locked-in pick of the week. Lions plus 2.5. People, take them. You can hate me. You can love me. I don't care. I'm taking the Lions all day this week.
Ooh, pick of the week for the Lions.
Starting off strong here, fellas. Starting off strong.
That's a bold move. We'll see if it pays off there, Cotton. I don't know.
Well, I mean, if there's nothing else to say, then we got Browns and Bengals up next. So Browns are minus 3 points here. So to be honest with you, I think the Browns is only minus 3 is a little bit odd because I think the Browns team this year has really shown that they have a stud rushing offense. Baker is basically a game manager, so he gets the job done, and their defense is solid. Now, the Bengals got good old Joe Burrow going on there, but a rookie is a rookie. He has looked a little bit susceptible at times, and in some point, in some way, I don't think this Bengals team has it yet. I think that with some time, with some building, they will get there, but I will take the Browns, and I will take Kareem Hunt to go off this week.
You know what? I would be a fan of that because, as most of you know, which we'll get to the trade section, I got Kareem Hunt. So this is where I'm going to... I agree with you on some points. I disagree with you on some points. I think that Joe Burrow is not like other rookies. Sure, susceptible to some of the same mistakes, susceptible to some of the misreads that you might have from every rookie quarterback. But Joe Burrow knows how to extend plays. I've seen that even just in 6 games. This Bengals team, they're not a world beater, I'll tell you that. But they should be happy about their future. So what I'm going to tell you in regards to the matchup, the Browns scare me. I agree with you in the sense that I think they should be a higher spread. I think the Browns have earned that, and I think that would be more fair. But with that being said, the Bengals, they know how to play creative football with Joe Burrow. I won't count them out with Joe Burrow. Give me the Bengals plus 3. Because the turmoil with this Browns team, you've got every fucking media outlet out there talking about trading OBJ. I don't even know if he's talking about it himself. But the fact that the rumors are out there, this team has way too many distractions, and Baker Mayfield has not played up to where he should be playing for the past 2 weeks. Maybe he turns it around against this Bengals team. I'll tell you, I mean, their defense is nothing to write home about. But give me the Bengals plus 3.
Gotcha. So now, JB, I just want to break in. We got a little bit of breaking news on the line. So Antonio Brown has signed a 1-year deal with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Fucking A,
so
bro.
It's a little bit crazy. So we got, and we're going to break this down even more when we get to that matchup because now this matchup's gotten even more juicy.
Can you say super team?
Can you say insane wide receiver core? You got Chris fucking Godwin. You got Mike Evans. And you got Antonio Brown, Mr. Big Chest himself on that team. Tom Brady has a plethora of weapons. Ronald Jones has been playing like the Jonesburger he ever wished he was. And my God, can I not believe how good that offense is going to be looking.
I'll tell you what, man. I really shouldn't be surprised because Tom Brady and Antonio Brown, they might as well share a fucking hotel room. Those guys definitely got something going on. They've got some kind of weird relationship. But I'll tell you what, best person you can have on your side is Tom Brady, 6-time Super Bowl champion. If he's pleading your case, you're going to end up back in the league as if AB's talent doesn't speak for itself. I think he's a piece of shit human, but on the football field, I cannot argue. So you're going to pick him up. You pick him up in fantasy, you're going to have a solid ad. Fuck you, Chris.
I don't blame it. All right, so we're going to have to try to move in a little bit more on these matchups. We're going to just kind of breeze through the next couple ones. So we got Steelers at Titans. Titans are minus 1.5. This is a pretty great matchup. Both teams are actually still undefeated, I believe. And we're looking at a really strong Steelers team with a stout defense. against a Titans offense that has the absolute King Henry, Derek Yeti. This man makes a snowball go into a mountain. My God, he will pick up a lot of yards, but that is a stout Steelers front seven he's going up against.
For those of the listeners that don't know, I have an alter ego as Coach Beanard Party. I'm an 11-time national champion in NCAA football 14. And I'll tell you one thing that we preach at every school that Beanard goes to, and it's a stout defense. If there's one thing that really gets my dick hard, other than Viagra, of course, friend of the program,
Of course.
that defense is legit. The Steelers' defense reminds me, if I was alive for it, of the Iron Curtain. You hear about those guys, Mean Joe Green. You hear about all those guys on that defense.
Absolutely.
This defense is mean. Now, don't get me wrong here. The Titans are a good team.
Yep.
They play the style of football that I love personally, a ground and pound, and you're just forcing up their gut. I'll tell you what. For somebody like Aiden having Derrick Henry, this might not be your matchup. That Steelers front seven is legit. Their rush defense is legit. Their pass defense is legit. I love the Titans, but give me the Steelers -1.5. I take experience over newcomers every time. You have Mike Tomlin, who's been there for probably a decade at this point. You have Big Ben, who has more knowledge than you could ever have as a quarterback in that career. You have James Conner, and you have all those weapons. I think this is going to be a dogfight, but give me the Steelers -1.5.
I don't blame you on that pick right there. And then we're going to roll into Panthers at Saints. So Saints are -7.0. Steve just reminding us again on our beautiful Grease League chat that he did get appendicitis, so he probably made another tight end move, which is ill-advised as most Steve's moves tend to be.
Yeah.
So actually, I want to go into this game just a little bit. We're just going to touch on the top of it. The Panthers team, a lot of people trash him a lot because they got Teddy Bridgewater. They're talking about him like he's not that great. Teddy Bridgewater, he's actually been very good for this Panthers team. Even without Christian McCaffrey, Mike Davis has been looking like Christian McCaffrey at 80%, which is a damn good player. And I'll tell you, the Saints without Michael Thomas have been susceptible to stalling on offense. Kamara, God bless Rigel's team, Kamara will eat up a lot of points, but that whole Panthers defense, which is a young team, is going to be struggling against Kamara, but in general, they can take a lot of the other guys out. You got no Emmanuel Sanders, you got no Michael Thomas. There's not much left at receiver. You got Traquan, but it's going to be a tough matchup. I think the -7 isn't that great, and I might take the Panthers here.
And can we put you down for +7 for the Panthers?
Yeah, I'm not as strong about it, but I can say +7 on the Panthers.
I'll tell you what, man, I couldn't agree with you more about Drew Brees. I think he's got, not quite Peyton Manning 2015 levels, but he's getting there with that noodle arm. I worry about it. They call Michael Thomas, whether you believe it or not, people in that locker room, the reason he got in that stupid fight, why he's, still hasn't been out there, was because they called him Mr. Quick Slant. And now I couldn't agree with that nickname more. I think Michael Thomas has got more talent than that. But, given Drew Brees' state and given the state of that offense, quick slants might be the best thing. I got to say, even though the Panthers have looked scary, I believe in the coaching experience of Sean Payton. Give me Saints -7 on to the next matchup.
Disagree. All right, we got the Buffalo Bills at the
We're not going to
New
need
York
to
Jets.
spend a lot of time on this
So
one.
Bills are -10. I think Josh Allen will absolutely stallion his way through the Jets because this is just an easy matchup. And honestly, -10 is a little bit disrespectful. I think that Bills team can put up a lot of points.
I'll tell you what, I couldn't agree more with you, Jeff. As an owner of Josh Allen in fantasy, I am very excited for this week's matchup against the Jets, let me fucking tell you. But I would agree with you. I think the spread -10 to the Bills is disrespectful. I think they've earned more of a spread than that, and I think they could cover more of a spread than that. So go Bills, -10.
Right on. All right, then we got the Cowboys, Dakless Cowboys against the Washington football team. Cowboys are only -1 going into this game. What do you think about that, JB?
I'll tell you what, Jeff. Honestly, as much as the Cowboys have not looked quite to what they are without Dak Prescott, you're still playing an NFC East team. And although the Giants are putrid, albeit, I think the Washington football team is on their level. I take the experience over the circus. Give me Dallas -1.
No, I agree with you on that one. I think there's not really much more notes to go over in that game, honestly. So, all All right, we'll move on to Packers at the Texans. The Packers are -3.5 in this game. So now the Texans team with Romeo Crennel, they have won 2 in a row actually since firing the butt chin himself, Bill O'Brien. So now Deshaun Watson has been playing lights out. I know that last week because I got dicked on by Deshaun Watson among other company upon a certain Aiden figure.
Shout out Aiden.
But the Packers team they're coming off a really rough loss to the Buccaneers. Rodgers, after celebrating an almost pump from the Key and Peele show, went down and did not score a point since getting 10 up. So that 3.5 line looking a little bit risky, looking a little bit weird because of the fact that Rigel realized it. Because of the fact that maybe that Packers team is not as good as you thought. It's a tighter game than you think, and I have a tough time picking that one, honestly.
I'll tell you what, valid points, but I'm going to go with Aaron Rodgers. I'm going to go with Matt LaFleur. They've been playing shaky football. I'd be more worried if the spread was higher. If it was a -6, -7, I would probably take the Texans. But if it's a 3.5 point spread, I have confidence in Aaron Rodgers in this offense to get that done. Give me the Packers -3.5.
All right, sounds good. All right, next matchup is a divisional matchup that honestly I'm looking forward to. You got Chiefs at Broncos, and Chiefs are -8 points, which is acceptable because of the fact that the Broncos are still banged up, and the Broncos are not quite there yet in their rebuild, really. But at the end of the day, these AFC West matchups have been a bloodbath. Last time the Chiefs played in a game that I think was really competitive against a divisional opponent was against the Raiders. The Raiders put up 40 points against the Chiefs. So even the Broncos on offense might be a little bit less than you might think. I can see the Broncos keeping up with these Chiefs a lot of the way. That spread's going to be a possibility, of course, to cover when you got Patrick fucking Mahomes. But at the same time, I like the Broncos +8, and I think that you're going to see a lot of Noah Fant, a lot of Jerry Jeudy, and you're going to have some Phillip Lindsay coming in there too because that Chiefs defense is still susceptible to some good runs and some big plays.
Hey, man, Jerry Jeudy going off, that's music to my ears. I got to say that the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes has just done things that I've never seen a quarterback in my life do. It's not fair what Patrick Mahomes does. He's a fucking cheat code. And I feel bad for anybody who roots for another team in that division because you got to play him twice a year. Give me Dak twice a year over Patrick Mahomes any day. But I got to go with Jeff here because I think that the Broncos, despite losing Von Miller and a number of other defensive players, still present a defensive threat. And I think that offense has enough pieces in place to where they might be able to fool the Chiefs defense and Steve Spagnuolo a little bit. I think 8 might be a little bit too high of a spread. I'd feel better if the Chiefs were -5, -6. Give me the Broncos +8. And I'm going to lead right into this next game here. Patriots 49ers. I'm going to tell you what, Jeff. One simple point of why I'm taking what I'm taking. The 49ers have been ravaged by injuries. Their quarterback situation is uncertain. They've got a lot going on. They've got a good coach in Kyle Shanahan, but they've got a lot of variables in place. I like the stability of Bill Belichick and Cam Newton. I think they're going to go out and they're going to win this game. And if they win this game, it's going to be by more than 2 points.
See, I find that really interesting because I actually watched a Patriots team last week lose against the Broncos in a pretty dominating fashion. Patriots made it close late in the game, but it was a little bit more than I thought. I mean, that offense was stifled completely. And I mean, I think the Broncos have a good overall defense, like we mentioned before, but I think that Patriots offense is pretty suspect. And to be honest, the 49ers coming out, they can game plan for people. They had a great game plan from Aaron Donald last weekend. And I think that overall their offense just still has a lot of good pieces. You got Mostert out this week, which really does hurt. Hurts anybody who's going to try to play him in fantasy too, because you can't do that. But that 49ers,
no, you cannot.
that 49ers running core is still very strong. Kyle Shanahan knows how to run an offense through their running back. And then Jimmy G, he looked awful against the Dolphins. Awful. But he looked pretty damn good against the Rams. So it's tough. It's not an easy matchup, and I think it really can go either way. And I'm not really going to go strongly against it. I'm actually going to not touch that matchup in terms of trying to predict who's going to win here.
Okay.
I can't really tell.
All right. Okay.
So the next one we got another gutter tier team in the Jaguars at the actual Los Angeles Chargers that are minus 7.5. Going into this year, a lot of people had no faith in this Chargers team because you got Tyrod Taylor at the helm, but now, past 4 weeks, you got Justin Herbert, and this kid has looked good. I'm telling you, he's got a deep ball you can't beat. He's got a good mind. He's able to get out of the pocket, make some throws. I mean, man, this team has looked lethal. And they've lost a lot of close games so far against really good teams that, you love that good crack of the beer can, of course.
God bless.
But honestly, I think this Chargers team is going to take it to this Jaguars defense because they are horrible. And you got Herbert, it's going to light them up, honestly. So if you got anybody in the Chargers, passing-wise, you got your Hunter Henrys, you got your Keenan Allens, even your, what's his name? Mike Williams. Mike Williams is probably going to have a big game too because that Jaguars defense is not good at all.
I'll tell you what, man, I couldn't agree more. I mean, the Jaguars are a fucking joke. I personally love Gardner Minshew. He's, I don't really even need to talk about Gardner Minshew for you guys to understand what Gardner Minshew is. He's a legend. I mean, that dude crushes beers. He's got sick facial hair, much like Aiden. I mean, I think about it all the time. Like, if I could grow a beard like Aiden, that'd be quite the thing. But, Gardner Minshew, I thought he would be more this year. I'm not going to lie. When I saw the mock drafts basically putting the Jaguars first, assuming they were tanking for Trevor, I wanted to give Gardner Minshew a chance. I think he's deserved more than that, being the legend that he is, and he doesn't deserve to be written off immediately. But with all that being said, this Chargers team is legit. Justin Herbert has looked great. I thought he was going to. I mean, he came out of Oregon. Oregon's offense, as Bruce knows, and anybody else who watched college football, is lethal every year. So, Justin Herbert's looked great. I hate how it had to happen. I mean, I feel bad for Tyrod. If I was him, I would sue if you're able to in some kind of capacity because, you basically got fired because the medical staff fucked up. And that's fucked up. So give me the Chargers minus 7.5 because the Jaguars are incompetent.
I agree with that. So we're going to move on to our next matchup. The Buccaneers at the Raiders. So this game was originally slated for that late night Sunday matchup, but because of the COVID concerns due to the Raiders offensive line, this matchup may or may not happen. So please make sure you keep yourself agile in your lineups if you have either of these players in play.
If you have Bleacher Report or anything like that, or if you're like me, who Sleeper just doesn't work for and doesn't give you notifications no matter what you've tried, just download Bleacher Report, download ESPN, put push notifications on, be aware of your lineup because this game might not happen.
But either way, we're going to break it down to you guys because this is still a pretty good matchup. So you get the Buccaneers coming off a dominating win over the Green Bay Packers. I mean, that offense and Ronald Jones, honestly, he made that offense look like an absolute stud offense.
That game shocked me.
It was crazy. And their defense is a threat. But a lot of people write the Raiders off pretty quick, but they've really looked great.
I like the Raiders, Jeff.
They've looked really good. And there's no line currently on this game because most betting sites are not allowing this. But in a straight pick-up matchup, it's hard to go against the Buccaneers. But I can see the Raiders fighting with this game the whole time.
Jeff, I agree with you. You give a spread to this game. I think the Buccaneers will win straight up. So if you're a money line bettor, if they do even put that out for this game, I would take Buccaneers.
Shout out Abraham.
But if you end up betting the Raiders, I don't think that's a bad bet either. Lazo, speaking specifically to you here, the Raiders have looked good. They've looked bad. I think there's a lot of reasons to be excited about them. I think the Raiders are an up-and-coming team, but this isn't their week.
I agree with you on that. All right, guys, so we're going to move into the Sunday night matchup. We are almost done with the football matchups. So now that the Seahawks at the Cardinals have been moved to there, the Seahawks are looking minus 3.5. Now, I will put a little piece of history in here. The last time the Seahawks and Cardinals met on Sunday night, it was a 6-6 tie back in 2016. So I know a lot of people are excited for a 6-6 tie. I think that a lot of people would look forward to that, especially Cardinals fans like Bruce himself. Bruce, if you'd like to put a little piece in on this one, I'd like to hear it.
We're going to bring in friend of the program, Bruce, here, and also producer and engineer.
Let me just talk from off the camera. I'm a Cardinals fan, and I've seen the Cardinals versus the Seahawks, and we put up a fight every single time. Seahawks are at the top of their division, but this is the best the Cardinals have looked in years. I honestly take the Cardinals. Of course, I'm going to take the Cardinals, but I don't think the Seahawks are going to come close. I feel like we're going to surprise a lot of people.
Okay, so I mean, I understand the hot take on that one with not even coming close. Now, listen, to me, Russ cooking like he is cooking does not matter what defense, does not matter what team he's playing against. You got Metcalf and you got Tyler Lockett running your team with Chris Carson healthy coming back. That offense is going to be hard to stop. JB, what do you think about it?
I'm telling you what, man. This is a matchup that I know the spread says -3.5. I think it might as well be a pick'em because I could see either of these teams winning this game. But I'll tell you what, you break it down team by team. Seahawks offense, as lethal as the Cardinals offense is, I think you got to get the leg up to Russell Wilson. I'll tell you what, as Bruce is talking now, I said it before he even got here. Kyler Murray, I am ready to anoint as a franchise quarterback. He is legit. He is the real deal. The Cardinals have set themselves up well for the future. With all that being said, I think the Seahawks still take this game. They have too many weapons. Their defense is too good. I think Kyler Murray comes out there and he puts up a valiant effort. I think this is a shootout, but I think they cover 3.5.
Agree with you on that. So, guys, we're going to move on to our last matchup of the week. That is the Monday night game between our other producer, Aiden's Bears, against the Rams. Now, the Rams are actually -6 in this game, which is a little bit shocking to me. But the Bears have been one of those 5-1 teams that you just don't quite expect. Because this Bears team has slipped and slided all their way to each win of the season, it almost feels like. But they do look good. I mean, that defense still looks like a threat. And the offense, as much as they seem to falter their way around most games, they put it together on a couple drives in a game, and that is good enough, honestly. It seems like it gets the job done.
I got to say, like, I couldn't agree with you more about the Bears defense. The Bears defense, I think, dictates this team. I think you need play from your quarterback that is good enough not to lose. There have been teams that have won the Super Bowl like that. We've seen examples of it throughout history. I mean, take the 85 Bears, for example. I know it was a long time ago, but you got Jim McMahon. You know, that team didn't run through him. That team ran through the goddamn defense.
You got Brock Cock Osweiler, too.
I think this Bears team is the same way. And I'll tell you what, Jeff. The Rams almost lost to the Giants. And the Bears also almost lost to the Giants. And I'll tell you what, I think that's more damning for the Rams than it is for the Bears. I think this Rams team is good, but I think they have the tendency to play streaky. And if this spread was lower, if it was closer to a pick'em, you give me the Rams. But you give me 6 points, I'm taking the Bears in this matchup. I think they can get some stuff going on offense with David Montgomery, and I think that defense is good enough to stifle Jared Goff to the point where they might not be able to cover.
I agree with you on that, JB. I honestly feel like the Bears are definitely the team to pick here. So, guys, we're going to roll into our next segment here. So we got our hot takes of the week. So now JB has his first hot take coming off the top here.
I'm going to try and not go too long on this because I really could spend the entire podcast on it. But Fat Randy, and if you don't know who Fat Randy is, he's Randy Bullock. He's the kicker for the Cincinnati Bengals. He's beautiful in every way. He's, you know, his gut is just great. It gives him wisdom when he's trying to kick. All I can think about is just, you know, my premonitions have been coming true this whole season. Fat Randy is a very coveted kicker in this league. I messaged Abraham twice, and he didn't respond, which pissed me off. But, like, you know, it's okay because Bruce ended up getting Fat Randy. And I'm sure, as you all saw yesterday, I traded my entire team for Fat Randy. And it was great having him for even 10 or 15 minutes. It made my day. Like, I wanted to kind of cry, like, but it was cool because, like, you know, need to keep it calm and collected. But now he's back on Bruce's team. I'm glad I didn't give my whole team away because, like, then I might, like, you know, not make the playoffs or whatever. I'm hoping I do, but we'll see. Maybe a team is better than Fat Randy, but maybe Fat Randy is better than a team. You guys decide.
So, all right. Now, when I saw Fat Randy's trade, all right, it was a little bit off-putting because I was like, what is going on here? I'm like, okay, so I have the ability to veto anything if I absolutely need to because it's like, yes, I try not to step in as the commissioner too much, but with something like that, I was about to be like, dude, get the fuck out of here. I was about to slap the shit out of something on somebody. But you guys traded back, and I saw in the chat later. So it's like,
yeah, you saw Bruce's message, Jeff, please do a thing. Like we wanted you to fix it at first, but then Bruce was good. Like he helped fix it, and he was good about it. I appreciate it. It was a fun experiment.
I'm like sitting there like, oh wow, look at all the activity, and I'm like, oh fuck me. All right. Well, either way,
the first thing you're thinking is like, oh great, I gotta unsort this mess. Like,
exactly.
So out of genuine curiosity, I just wanted to see what would happen if I put his entire roster on my team, and it gave me 13 players over roster limit. I couldn't put anybody into my starting lineup. The only thing I could do was trade them all off. So I put them all on the trade block, and I wanted to see who would bite. But eventually I just gave them all back to JV, except for Julio Jones.
I'm not gonna lie, dude. When I saw you putting players on the trade block, I was like, no, he isn't. Like, you're not trading players to my team right now. Like, you know this was a meme. Like,
No, I wasn't.
That made me nervous, but then it also made sense because, Bruce was putting people on the trade block. He was identifying which of his players he knew because, as we'll get into later, Bruce's team is very much different this week to last.
Indeed it is. So I want to move on to the next hot take I got. So now, to me, I feel like Ryan Fitzpatrick, the Magic himself, is going to be a better fantasy option than Tua I can't even say his name right.
Tagovailoa.
Whatever. Fucking, I'm drinking too much.
You could say it like Rick Ross. Tua Tagovailoa.
Tua Tagovailoa. Something about that. I don't know. I can't fucking do it. But I think that Tua, he's going to be a good guy. He's going to be really good in his career. I think he's going to be a great quarterback. But this year was Fitz's team, man. Everybody rallied around him. Fitz went into that Dolphins team last year, beat Josh Rosen, which is not a great accomplishment, but somewhat still. Some
would call it a very below average accomplishment.
But he still made that team feel like it was his. And damn it, that Dolphins team has been battling. They are second in the AFC East, and they've been really good. And not only that, but Fitz has been playing very well. He's had a couple down weeks, which is an average quarterback thing to do, and it's a Fitz-tragic thing sometimes.
Fitz-tragic,
But honestly, he's been more magic than tragic, and I do not see that slowing down because he's done it against a multitude of teams, whether it was defenses that were strong or not so much. So I think rest of the season, Fitz would be the better option, and I see that if you have Devontae Parker, Preston Williams, or even Myles Gaskin, your Dolphins players are going to hurt by having Tua come in.
The one I would disagree with that from is Myles Gaskin. I think, if anything, if you have a rookie, you might be running the ball more. So Myles Gaskin, in my opinion, value might go up. The rest of the guys, I tend to agree. You're going to have rookie growing pains. You're going to, Tua takes some time. He's coming off a massive fucking hip injury. The way Bruce can, or any college football fan can agree, if you watch Tua at Alabama, you saw some fucking crazy things. I'm not saying this kid's going to come in right away and he's going to light it up, but this kid is special. And I'll go on the record as saying that I think this kid's going to be a franchise quarterback. And if I'm wrong, I'll own it too. I disagree with you in the sense that I think Fitz is more up and down, whereas I think as Tua begins to grow, you might have some shit weeks. I wouldn't start him in the next couple of weeks, but once he starts to get into his own with the way this Dolphins team is performing, because I agree with you, as a team, I think they're going to make the playoffs. But to me, I think Tua will come around sooner rather than later. R.I.P. Fitzmagic.
Fair enough. So, guys, I think we all wanted to get down to these league matchup breakdowns. So, we're going to start off with my team, the Spanky's Fun Bunch, versus the Porch Moochers, who are Chris's team.
That's collusion.
So, the only reason being is I was at the top of my list when I made my notes for this podcast. So, fuck all of you because I made the notes so you guys can suck a dick and listen to my team first.
Agreed.
So, first and foremost, I'm going to have, of course, a rough week because I do not have any Dalvin Cook because of a bye week. No Dalvin Cook means my team is susceptible at that running back position, as well as I still have some solid other guys, but I did recently trade away Julio Jones for,
Jonathan Taylor.
Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you don't remember that. For everybody who watches college football, right? Jonathan Taylor, the Wisconsin running back, Put some respect on his name. That was a smart trade by you, Jeff. I think it benefited both of us. Maybe it benefits me more at this time. Only time will tell. But you got more running back depth. It sucks that he's on the bye week at the same time as Dalvin. That's unfortunate. But
well, I recognize that in the trade. But either way, I'm going to break down the matchup for you guys. So now I would say my most lethal players on my team, I got Devontae Adams, who you never know what's going to happen. I think Devontae can put up a crazy week at any point in time. Got Chris Godwin, who so far has been a little bit more injured, but that Buccaneers team...
Watch out for Chris Godwin when Antonio Brown gets on the field, by the way, because he gets downgraded, in my opinion.
I don't disagree with you there. I think it does hurt his stock. It hurts his value a little bit.
Antonio Brown comes in. He's going to be their number one wide receiver. Him and Tom, as I said earlier, get him a hotel room. They got something going.
You're right about that. And then last, and maybe the least, but I got also good old David Montgomery, the opportunity. So now David Montgomery, talent-wise, might be a little bit here or there, but on the Bears' offense, he is utilized a lot. You got no more of your other guy coming in, and he's just going to get a lot of those touches. He's going to have a lot of things going on for him. He is going to just absolutely just dominate the running game. He's going to get some catches, and he'll get enough points to just get by.
I'll tell you what, man, I agree with you, too, because I joked about David Montgomery for a long time. He was a meme for a long time, at least in my eyes. Maybe some people agree. I think they probably do. David Montgomery has been a solid start in fantasy this season. He's not a running back 1, but if you have him in your running back 2 slot or your flex, more often than not, you're probably going to be okay. As Jeff said, he gets a lot of touches, and I think rightfully so, because he's a talented back. And I think sometimes you see the Bears offense get into it a little bit. You know, they don't open holes up for him, but when shit opens up, David Montgomery can run.
Yeah. And then on the other side, you got Chris's team, whose team is looking absolutely lethal. You got Russ, the cooker himself, just absolutely throwing up insane games. This man cannot be stopped. Another guy you got on here is D-Hop, who has been absolutely electric for the Cardinals. I mean, he's a huge possession receiver who can also catch the long ball. I mean, if he doesn't even catch a big play for the week, he's still looking at a great amount going on. And it's crazy to think about that. And then otherwise, you still got Chris. His running back core right now is a little bit different because of the fact that with Clyde Hilaire now having competition to Le'Veon Bell, it's going to be a little bit tougher for him to get a lot more touches. But you also have James Robinson on this team, who are two very formidable running backs that can definitely put up points. It's going to be a tough week, especially with DK Metcalf being played against, and Chris is definitely the favorite in this matchup.
That Chiefs backfield is shaky water, to quote Drake. I know Bruce probably knows that. Shout out, Bruce. I got to tell you, I think Chris is going to win this matchup, as much as I hate to say it, man. Chris is... I don't know if most of y'all have checked the all-time standings. I might be a game or two off, but Chris is 17-2 all-time. Kudos to you, Chris. You keep it, you do your thing. I'm not looking forward to playing you. Jeff's got to play you this week. I think you're going to win, but I think you've got some stiff competition because Jeff knows what the fuck he's doing in fantasy.
Much appreciated, but sometimes you can't help the team you got at the time. All right, moving on. So we got the San Francisco 69ers versus Team Abraham. Abe, fuck you for not coming up with a name.
Love the team name change by Lazo, by the way.
Finally getting his account back, first of all, so that's a good sign for the league in general. They have all 12 guys actively.
We got our beautiful producer there, Aiden. He was very enthusiastic. Indeed. I like it.
So on the San Francisco 69ers, he's got a formidable team right now. So his lineup, you got Patrick Mahomes, who can always light up against any team.
Patrick Mahomes is an incredible quarterback.
He's
enough said.
He's crazy. And Mahomes can do it against any team, any game. And Josh Jacobs, who is going against the Buccaneers, so it's a tough matchup because of the fact that who knows if the game's going to be played, but still, Jacobs has been a very, very big piece of that offense so far.
I'll tell you what, man, I expect him to continue that this week. The Buccaneers defense is legit. They've got the sack leader from last year, Shaq Barrett, on their defensive line. They've got a lot of great pieces on that defense. but every defense slips up every now and then. I think Josh Jacobs still gets his this week. Maybe he doesn't explode, but I think Josh Jacobs is good for 15, maybe more points this week.
I agree with you there. And then you also got A.J. Brown on Lazo's team. So now A.J. Brown, he is somebody that Ryan Tannehill's been cooking, and A.J. Brown is cooking right with him. He is somebody that will pick up your yards, and he will also be good for you for about a touchdown a game. He's been looking like he's always finding his way to the end zone, a big body receiver, great in the red zone, and, I mean, he's going to be getting it done for his team.
Definitely agree with you there. Who do we got on Abraham's team now? We got Joe Mixon. Now, Joe Mixon was a good pick at the draft. I was a little worried about how he'd play on this Bengals team, but, you know, he's spoken for himself over these past couple weeks. You got Odell Beckham. Odell, I'm a little worried about. There's a lot of nonsense swirling around with him, as there always is. I couldn't tell you more. I'm sure you agree with me. You can say if you do. Thank fuck he's not on the Giants anymore. I just don't want to deal with it. It's just a new story every goddamn week. Odell could have his, but honestly, if I'm an Odell fantasy owner, I'm nervous every week. Robbie Anderson, Abraham, kudos to you, man. Robbie Anderson was a receiver on the Jets last year who was just coming into his own. And this year on the Panthers, he has lit it the fuck up. As a lot of former Jets players, I think, will. So, you know, this will be a good matchup, I think. You've got two teams going at it, and I think it's going to be a close one.
I agree with that one. Next matchup we got is the Day Drinkers, led by Rigel, and then the Mookie Man, led by JB himself, going to this lineup.
Yes, sir!
So, first and foremost, we're going to go by Rigel's team, who has the two most stacked running backs in the league probably right now.
I got to give you credit, Rigel. Great draft.
You got Aaron Jones, who is good for himself for a lot each week. I mean, Aaron Jones himself has been getting the touchdown. He's been getting receiving yards. He's been getting the rushing yards. This man has been taking it all on this offense, JB. I mean, he has been absolutely taken over.
Kamara and Aaron Jones are a beautiful pairing. Aaron Jones has picked up right where he left off from last year. I had my concerns. You had your concerns. He's legit. Alvin Kamara, I had my concerns about him too. His contract situation was iffy. He was maybe thought to be holding out from the Saints. Those could have been catastrophic, but he's back now, and he's every bit of the number one fantasy running back. So, Rigel, keep riding off your running backs and try to complement them as best you can.
And now, my pick of the week to be the biggest scorer, I think, Kenny Golladay, going against the Atlanta Falcons. I think Matt Stafford is going to light it up, and that's going to be led by Kenny Golladay. And JB can laugh his ass off all he wants, but seriously, that Falcons defense is not good, and Kenny Golladay is a talent. And I think that he's going to get himself at least a score, and I think he's going to catch a lot of passes from that team.
I know I laughed, but Jeff, I respect your football opinion on anything, and I know if you say something, you mean it. So I don't think it's dumb or anything. I think that could very much happen, but there's a hell of a lot of players in this league, and Kenny Golladay, he's a receiver, but he's not quite on my radar this week. I'll tell you what, who I'm looking at to have a big week would definitely be Tyreek Hill. He's going against Broncos. Broncos have a habit of shutting down a receiver, but the Chiefs have too many weapons. They can overwhelm them. I think that Tyreek Hill can go for the big play or no play, and I think those big plays can happen. I think that's the way you move against this Broncos defense. They're not going to give up a lot, but when they do, I think it could be big. I would start Tyreek Hill too. I don't think Kenny Golladay is a bad pick, but if that's my pick, I'm giving you my pick, and it's Tyreek Hill.
Fair enough. So we're gonna move on. So now JB's team also we got Julio Jones lined up JB's team. So Julio has been an absolute stud this season at times.
New acquisition. I'm a little nervous. He tends to be boom or bust, but also at the same time he's shown consistency in the past. So we're hoping for the most out of him. I'm glad that Jeff traded him to me. I thought our trade between him and Taylor was pretty fair given the circumstances. And
Yeah. JB, got anything else to add on about your team this week?
all I got to say, Rigel, your team is legit, and I'm worried about this matchup. I think either of us could win. I think either of us has a very legit shot at winning. Bring it on.
All right. Next matchup of the week we got is the Hairless Chimp, which is Dan's team, versus the Kinky Bean Fellas, one of our producers.
Love the names, too.
Indeed. The Kinky Bean Fellas, one of our producers himself. We're going to let him weigh in a little bit here. But first, we're going to start off looking at Dan's team. So Dan's got Mike Davis, who's been surprisingly a Christian McCaffrey light. This guy has been coming
Mike
up...
Davis. Should I say Knife Davis?
Well, I mean, you could, but they are two different players. So we're going to keep talking about Mike Davis. Mike Davis has been putting up points. He's been going receiving yards, getting those plenty. He's been able to rush for that team nice, and he's been scoring and finding the end zone nicely. Next, another change for Dan's team. He's got Tyreek Hill, who, of course, JB labeled himself earlier, is a player that can really hit it off. He's a guy that he can go have 0 points throughout the game until the third quarter. Then in one play, he's got a 60-yard touchdown because this kid is quick. They call him the cheetah for a reason.
Damn straight.
Otherwise, then, Aiden's team put up a steaming hot 170 points last week. Absolute ridiculousness. And now you got Aiden's team held up by Deshaun Watson, who's got a good matchup. And I mean, the Packers defense looked incredibly susceptible last weekend. And he can throw it as best as anybody can. Romeo Crennel makes it happen for this team. Just Bill O'Brien being out of the building apparently makes him play a lot better.
It's a blessing, dude.
100%. Then you got your boy Derrick Henry fucking running it down the gut. He will just throw you in the face. He will rush for 5 yards just by falling on top of anybody. You put that man on the field 5 times, 6 times, 20 times probably. He's going to at least get himself a 100-yard game, and he's looking at an absolute regular stud week.
I'm going to give him time to get in here. Our good friend of the program, engineer Aiden. So I'm going to keep it short. I'm just looking at our podcast notes. I'm going to bring them up. I see Deshaun Watson. I see Derrick Henry. I see Travis Kelce. Aiden made himself some decent trades this week, and I think his team is very poised to go to the next level. He's 1 game below 500. He has very much of an opportunity to make a jump here. He is 500. Making a clarification here. He's 500 team. I think he's only going up from here. And I definitely think that a lot of his players are poised to go off this week. That'll be a very interesting matchup.
Aiden, would you like to chime in real quick?
We're going to bring our friend of the program in here, / engineer, Aiden.
Yeah, I'll chime in. I don't know if this is my week. I don't really think it is. Next week, though, or maybe the week after that. But whenever CMC comes back,
that's the
that'll be
that's the secret ace in the hole that I actually forgot to mention. CMC is a freaking time bomb sitting on Aiden's IR right now. When he comes back, man, Derrick Henry and CMC, wow. We'll see.
Agree with that. All right. So, guys, we're going to work through it. We got the next matchup of the Hot Ones, which is Bruce's team led by Bruce himself. And then we got Mr. Katana. And, Jason, you've been using this name since high school and middle school, actually. But we would like to see a little bit more of a creative team name from you there.
See, that's where I disagree, my friend. Mr. Katana is a classic. And I think it stood the test of time.
All right, And that's a fair point. I just feel like it's the fantasy league, it's the Grease League. You got to get a little bit different every year. But Mr. Katana is a classic. I'll agree with that.
At least he's not Team A. Brown now.
Yeah, you're right about that. So now Bruce's team has been, changed up quite a lot this week. And we're going to get more into it when we get to the trades. But overall, Bruce's team is led by some pretty solid players. Kyler Murray is looking like an absolute stud breakout this year for fantasy. Todd Gurley, who's actually had himself a few nice weeks. And Amari Cooper, who garbage time is his absolute friend because Amari Cooper likes to get himself a nice, huge drive at the end of the game to pick up most of his points.
This is an interesting matchup. Bruce's team is basically most of the way different than it was last week. I mean, Bruce was trading players at what I would say is typically a Jeff level. He was like a mad scientist, and we'll get into it with his trades. I like his new energy. I like his renewed confidence. And I think Bruce is going to be a formidable force this week. I think Jason having Michael Thomas back, assuming.
So
is
actually,
huge.
Michael Thomas is trending towards not being in.
Can't say I'm surprised. He's been not doing, his thing this season. But, George Kittle, Devin Singletary, those are players to watch out for. This one should be good.
Should be a good matchup. All right, now we got our favorite matchup of the week.
Dr. Bauchi's Anididote.
Anitio. Because Steve is still not corrected the team name.
I don't want him to correct it.
No,
I think it's fine. I like it more that way.
I get you. Versus Team R Cars. So now Steve's team has also experienced a transformation. Whether or not we agree with that transformation, and now some of the players that
remains to be seen.
And some players that were once relevant to his team are now no longer on his team. But we're gonna go down with it. So you got Ronald Jones, who's been surprisingly very good this year for the Buccaneers. He really has been performing.
I think that was a good
very
pickup
well.
by Steve.
It was
Jeff.
a big pickup. I think that he made a great trade getting him. But he did lose a key player on his team. He lost Keenan Allen, which I think he lost it in a. We'll get to it later.
That's a trade I'm definitely going to want to dissect later.
It was a poor trade by, I think, Steve's team. I think that he was just trading for the sake of it, and we will work on that later. Right. And then he also got Justin Herbert, which was also a poor trade of losing Justin Herbert for Lamar Jackson. Just because he would have won his previous week if he had Lamar Jackson still. Just FYI. Just saying. And the players that he traded for did not help him. But anyways, so we're going to move on to Rob's team, whose team has been looking very good lately. JB, you want to interject here?
I mean, dude, Rob's team, he's another sneaky team I see. Much like Aiden's team, he's got, two strong running back twos in James Conner and Chris Carson with potential to be running back ones if they take the next step. He's got Calvin Ridley, who might as well be almost Julio Jones, which, Calvin Ridley is the one thing, if I could speak from my team now, Julio Jones, he's the only thing that makes me nervous. And then the strongest thing of all that I think Rob has on his team is Young Ho Koo. Young Ho Koo is the epitome of a legend kicker. He makes every kick in my eyes. He's a fan favorite. Everybody loves him, and he scores fantasy points. Young Ho Koo, I hope he spends a long career in the NFL, and I wish him nothing but success in the future. And because Rob has Young Ho Koo, I need to give him the edge in this matchup.
I definitely give Rob's team the edge in this matchup. It definitely helped that he had Carson Wentz on Thursday. Besides that, Rob's team,
Carson Wentz against that shitty fucking Giants defense.
Just shitty Giants team in general. But either way, Rob's team has been looking really good. All right, guys. So honestly, this week has been absolutely freaking nuts with the amount of trades going on. I cannot understand how we've had 14 trades this week. Like, absolutely crazy. Because this has been the most I've ever seen in a week we've had together.
Trade fever, man. That's what it is.
You see one, and first of all, to start it off, we've had a classic trade between the two hosts of the show, actually. Between me and JB. So now this trade was definitely based off of need. It was based off of a lot of just trying to get something that both players wanted. JB got Julio Jones, and I got Jonathan Taylor. Now, JB, I think, honestly, I think he won this trade because of the fact that Julio Jones is going to be a better tier player than Jonathan Taylor will be. But my team needed some running back depth, so that's why I made the choice I did.
Jonathan Taylor's been not as high scoring as Julio, but he's definitely been more consistent. So it's something you have to take into account. I think it's like a pretty even trade. I don't know if I'd really even be able to put who won it, in my mind until, only time will tell. I think, because I think that trade's pretty even on paper, but I think your points are valid as well. I think Austin Eckler for Tyler Boyd. Now that's an interesting trade. Eckler has been hurt for a while, so I think Bruce sold him at probably the highest value he probably could have, given everything. And we're probably going to bring Bruce in for his opinion too, because he might not agree with us. But, that would probably be my opinion. I'll go to Bruce here, and then we'll go to Jeff.
I feel like this is a good time to just cover the entire restructure. I talked to Chris about getting a wide receiver too. It's been too long. I have too many slots on my roster filled. So instead of prioritizing these players on if they come back, I need to actually start rebuilding now. And then eventually, as trades started rolling in through the morning, it just became a trade frenzy, and I decided it's time for a restructure. I have too many injured players on my roster. I need to start making moves, and I need to actually build a roster. I need to actually build a roster that will sustain me for the rest of the season. That might include trading key players that may be beneficial in the future, but I don't have that much time to wait, because if I wait with injured players on my roster, then I'm never going to make any progress. So I figured, since it was a kind of a trade frenzy, I eventually said, fuck it, you guys have me inspired. Let's just run it and restructure the entire team.
As much as I hate to bring up recent history, I think what Bruce did was smart, because he avoided becoming a team like our producer Aiden here last year, where he valiantly made some gambles, but and we'll give him a chance to respond too. Valiantly made some gambles, but I think he waited way too long on certain players, whereas he could have maybe made an opportunity at other players. And that may have contributed to his downfall last season. So, Bruce, I applaud you for retooling your team. That's all you can do when you're down. I mean, if you're a few games down in fantasy, you got nothing to lose. You got to try everything you possibly can do, even if it means trading your best player.
Yeah. All right, guys. So we're gonna work through these trades as quick as we can. So now we got about a lot of Steve trades. So now Steve's first trade, he traded himself Brandon Cooks away for Le'Veon Bell. I like this trade. I think it's a good pick because Steve needed a running back, and Le'Veon going on the Chiefs with Clyde as the main guy, still a good pick. Le'Veon can take over at any time. He's a very talented running back, and Brandon Cooks is close to a waiver wire pickup kind of guy. He's had a couple good weeks, 2 weeks in a row, but honestly, I think Jason loses this trade.
I couldn't agree with you more. Jason, Brandon Cooks is Brandon Cooks. I offered Aiden a few weeks ago. Aiden was probably smart enough to not take it, but I offered Aiden a few weeks ago a trade where it was a defense for Brandon Cooks, because that's all that I felt he was worth. Brandon Cooks has had a good 2 weeks. I give Steve a lot of credit for selling high. That was smart of him. But, be careful with Brandon Cooks for the rest of the season, because as somebody who's made the mistake and who's had him in the past, he will let you down.
Yep. And next...
Wait. One thing for the record, I will actually say that Jason has said he's been regretting the fact that he made that trade about Le'Veon Bell, so we will see the aftermath of that trade this week.
As I like to say, my friend, only time will tell.
All right, so now we also have a Steve DeLazzo trade. So Steve traded away Adam Thielen for Ronald Jones and Zach Moss. I like this trade from Steve's angle, and I don't mind it from DeLazzo's angle too, because, listen, Steve finally got a couple value pieces for a guy that's a little bit higher up, and Steve needed to retool pretty heavily. Ronald Jones has been looking good. Zach Moss, he's a backup to Devin Singletary, and he's the rookie. So, I mean, at any point in time, Zach Moss could take over in a game or a couple times that he might be a nice bench piece to sit down for you.
I think this was a really smart trade by Steve. I think this was probably his best trade of the day. Ronald Jones will definitely help out Steve's team. He needs running backs. I mean, I thought he had all the running backs, but, maybe he doesn't have all the running backs. I have no idea. But with all that being said, Steve needed a running back. He got a running back. He traded away a valuable asset, but he got a valuable asset back. That's a good trade. I like it. We'll see how it goes down the road.
Yeah. All right, next is a big trade. It's two big pieces, and we're looking at Bruce gave away Nick Chubb for Tyreek Hill to JB. And now Tyreek, an absolute talent. Nick Chubb, an absolute talent. But Bruce needed players now. And running backs, especially in our league this year, are the most valuable pieces you can have. But a running back who is on IR is the most invaluable piece you can have at times because he ain't doing squat for your team. So getting Tyreek Hill, I mean, that's a pretty good trade for Bruce. I think that he needed a guy that can be a playmaker and get him some wins now because you can't get yourself too far out of it when it comes to playoff contention.
I'll tell you what, man. I needed a running back. I know Nick Chubb is going to come back. I know Bruce dealt Tyreek Hill pretty quickly. But Nick Chubb I had in this league last year. I know what he did for me. I know that Kareem Hunt is the back of the Browns right now, but as we'll get into in probably a couple moments, we have him on the squad as well, the Mookie Man. So I hope when Nick Chubb comes back that he's as much of the bell cow as he was before he was hurt.
Right on. Now, we got a big trade, so like JB mentioned, it includes Tyreek Hill. And I know I mentioned as Tyreek was a good piece, but now Bruce did trade it for a very nicely done three-person trade. So Bruce trades away Melvin Gordon, Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb for Travis Kelce, Todd Gurley, and DeAndre Swift. I like this trade an absolute lot because really Travis Kelce is an automatic, bona fide number one tight end piece. There's only about 4 to 5 guys maybe, and that's even pushing it a year, that are your legitimate tight end ones. Guys that can actually get you weeks that are consistent along the lines of a wide receiver 2 or 1. And
Travis Kelce absolutely plays like a wide receiver 1.
Absolutely. And I mean, Todd Gurley has
I
been...
will also attest to the fact that I believe he plays like a wide receiver 1. And that's very important in the point of the trade.
Yeah. And I mean, then you got Todd Gurley and DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift came off a huge week for the Lions last week when they crushed the Jaguars. And then Todd Gurley's also been doing good for the Falcons. And I mean, CeeDee Lamb and Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon came off that, he's still in that pseudo-suspension, whatever the hell you want to call it. And then CeeDee Lamb, he's on a weakened Cowboys offense.
Can I interject real quickly here? How do you get a DUI as an NFL player? You call an Uber, you get a car service, you have millions of dollars at your disposal. Getting a DUI as an NFL player is nothing more than a dumb fuck move, and I have no sympathy for you.
No, not at all. Honestly, Melvin Gordon, fucking idiot. Seriously. Like, how do you make that move? How do you do that? Because you have drivers, you have guys. NFL teams have guys that are on staff 24/7 to drive you at any point in time.
Absolutely.
If you ever need it.
Yep.
Seriously, they do. And it's like, why would you ever try to drive your own car at that point in time?
No sense in
Can I
it.
interject?
Aiden, if you guys
We're gonna bring in friend of the program, Aiden Worley.
I'm going to also interject. The longest yard proves that it's possible.
Classic.
The longest yard does prove that.
Should we start talking about Cheeseburger Eddie?
I don't know if we got time for this. So we're gonna have to, hold Cheeseburger Eddie for another
We'll
time.
roll right on down the line.
Either way, I like the trade for both teams. I think that it gives Dan some options for later in the season, and I think Bruce gets some guys that are ready to go right now. So you got Rigel to JB. You got Kareem Hunt for Tua and Mark Andrews. Now, Rigel also, a little insider knowledge, Rigel declined Kareem for Lamar Jackson from me, which was a little bit odd. But Rigel really wanted Mark Andrews from JB, I guess, and Tua, who is unproven and may or may not be an actual asset to his team. But goddamn, JB got a great pickup because Kareem Hunt, even with Nick Chubb, that 1-2 offense on the fucking Browns has been crazy good.
Now, I'll tell you what, Jeff. I might start them both when Nick Chubb comes back. I might put Kareem Hunt in that flex spot, and we'll let him roll. We'll see what happens.
Would not blame you at all.
But I'll tell you what, Jeff. Rigel had a big need at tight end. I think I helped him out there. I agree with you. If I was Rigel, I would have taken your trade, but I'm happy you took mine, obviously. I think me and Rigel helped each other out. While I think that Rigel might not be able to start Tua right away, I think give him 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks, I think he's going to be a solid fantasy option start.
No, I mean, I don't doubt that. Moving on, we're going to get some more Bruce trades because Bruce definitely had quite a plenty of trades.
Bruce man.
We got 3 trades.
Bruce man.
We got 2 of his trades to Abraham and one of his trades to Aiden. So one of Bruce's first trades was Travis Kelce for Amari Cooper's Pittsburgh Steelers defense. Myself personally, defense trades are always tough.
We got to start tearing this apart now.
But I actually will say,
Okay.
but Pittsburgh Steelers defense has been legit, and Amari Cooper honestly has been too hot and cold. So I would still keep Travis Kelce personally. That's me.
I gotta agree with you, Jeff. Here, I mean, Travis Kelce is quite the asset. Amari Cooper, while I will give credit to the other side here, the tendency, what I've seen, is that when the starting quarterback goes down and you've got a backup quarterback out there, I think the best thing you can have on a fantasy team is a number one wide receiver, because they're going to try to look to that guy. They're going to try to rely on that guy. With all that being said, I'm not a big fan of defenses being part of trades. The Steelers maybe could be worthy of an asset in a trade. But to everybody in our league, be wary of defenses being included in a trade.
Steve.
You're hearing that just from me. Maybe you don't agree with me, but that's just what I got to say.
Right on. So then next trade is... All right, we're going to go over this quick.
We'll skip this one.
No. I'll talk about this one.
Quick.
So,
Well, producer, friend of the program, Bruce.
I made a very hard play at Justin Tucker for Leonard Fournette. It was a very admirable
Actually,
effort,
yeah, this
but
is the quintessential
yeah.
trade.
So it was a very admirable. Trade effort. Unfortunately, Steve didn't bite on my trade offer. So in the morning, I just gave Leonard Fournette to Abraham because I heard he wanted a running back. So I was like, fuck it. I want a number 4 kicker. I'll take him. I don't want Leonard Fournette because he spends too much time injured on my bench. I don't need that.
Yep, and Bruce somehow also traded Adam Humphries and Daniel Carlson for Marquise Brown.
I'll tell you what.
That's a gross trade. Honestly, I would never do that in a million years if I was Abraham, but it's gross and it's disgusting. And I don't know why, because a kicker adds no value, especially when you don't even know the fucking guy's name, because it's a fucking kicker that nobody gives a shit about. Fucking Abe, stupid fucking asshole.
But to go back to Randy Bullock, I did get JB's entire team for him. I just feel like that's a fair point.
Jeff, I was about to erupt, but now I really can't because Randy... You know what? No, fuck it. Randy Bullock is the fucking GOAT. I talked about it earlier, but he's the goddamn GOAT. He has got a big gut. It helps him on his kicks. Any other kicker besides that? Also, shout out Steve. Justin Tucker, he's worth it. Any other kicker besides Fat Randy and Justin Bullock? Justin Tucker? If you're including them a part of your trade, what the fuck are you doing, dude? And on the party who accepts that, what are you doing? You're trading for a kicker, dude. You see how ridiculous that sounds?
Get over yourself, please.
Yeah, agreed.
All right,
Let's
moving
move
on to some more ridiculous trades. So, God, I might have gotten this one backwards, but did Steve trade away Le'Veon Bell for Corey Davis?
He did indeed.
So now, Steve, you went from having a good move to absolutely shafting yourself in about 2 seconds because Corey Davis has been the most upsetting, most awful wide receiver with basically no upside in a while. And I cannot believe that you trade away a guy that you basically stole for a guy you picked off the waivers for Corey fucking Davis. All right, now the next ones are also steep trades, and I know JB, you're waiting at the end here because I'll just break this each down and you can go over the summarization of it. All right. Now Steve trading Raheem Mostert for Sterling Shepard and Jimmy Graham. That was just bold as shit. Now Sterling Shepard looked like he was a quintessential part of the Giants' offense last night. So, there to you, kudos if you really believed in Sterling Shepard. Steve, I don't believe you had that knowledge going into it. I think you just did it because name value. But kudos to you.
Agreed.
Jimmy Grandpa, you can find most tight ends off the wire that are going to do about the same, but fine. You don't want a guy that's injured your team. Okay. Now the next trade.
Just to interject for a quick minute here. Raheem Mostert, I don't think he has a ton of value given the way the 49ers run their backfield. But he's still Raheem Mostert. So to me, you're kind of trading, dimes for nickels there. Anyway,
and I agree.
Moving on.
The next trade is an absolute hideous trade because it's not just the trade
This
itself.
is the one I wanted to get to, Jeff.
Not just the trade itself, but the way that Steve then operated his team afterwards. So he traded Keenan Allen for Cooper Kupp and Dez Bryant. And now on the surface, it still sounds fucking stupid because Dez Bryant is only on the practice squad and might only barely be signed by the Ravens. But then he dropped Dez Bryant, and Cooper Kupp, worst receiver, pound for pound, utilized so significantly.
You know what I'm going to tell you, Jeff? How do you, as a fantasy player, trade away, when you have the quarterback for that team, trade away their number one wide receiver option? I have on my team Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs for a reason. I like having that combo. I think Justin Herbert and Keenan Allen, Justin Herbert's a rookie, but he's been lighting it up. And Keenan Allen, we've seen what Keenan Allen can do. This trade to me is inexcusable. I know Aiden's the other party. I'm going to actually bring our friend of the program on because I need him to explain his viewpoint from this side of the trade.
Hey, big fan of the show. Thanks for having me on.
Shout out Viagra.
Yeah, love Viagra. I've been taking it every day for months, and it's rock hard.
Yeah.
Let me tell you. So, this is quite a swindle, I think. I just knew Steve would give away Keenan Allen. So I was like, I'm going to go for it. And I upped my ante each trade. So first it was like Julian Edelman and Dez Bryant. And then it was Cooper Kupp for Keenan Allen. And then it was Cooper Kupp and Dez Bryant. And then he took that last trade. He ended up dropping Dez Bryant. And I picked him up immediately. So that was the trade process.
All right, so as you guys see, Steve's been trading a lot. So if you want some good players for a lot of cheap money, trade to Steve.
I don't think there's good players anymore.
There's not good players left. We ran them dry.
I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's just another trade. Maybe it'll end up helping. We'll see how it goes. Only time will tell. We really only got one trade left that we could get into.
And this one
I'll let you start this one off.
This one grinds the shit out of me because you've had Tim Patrick, who's obviously a name that not many people know. He's been pretty underground, but he's been performing well for these Broncos. And the thing is that Drew Lock and the other backup quarterbacks for the Broncos have been utilizing him in this offense quite consistently because since Courtland Sutton has went down, he's been a pretty good asset. And it was traded away for a Indianapolis Colts defense.
And you know what, Jeff? The thing that kills me about this trade is that maybe you could justify trading for the Colts defense. There, I think the last time I checked, 2 or 3 in defenses in fantasy. But even so, even on a good week, a defense is getting you maybe 15 or 16 points.
That's at max.
That's at like a great
That's
week.
a great week, yep.
And if they have 20, that's a phenomenon. So, I don't know about you. I know you probably agree with me. I'd rather have a wide receiver that could have the potential of a 20, 25-point game than a defense who might once in a blue moon get me even just 15.
I agree. This kid's been putting up some great targets, great receptions each week now. And Tim Patrick has been nice. And Chris is going to have a good depth piece. And it's a little bit crazy to see. But, guys, that really wraps up a lot of our trade talk for the week. Couple last notes we want to go over.
Last tidbits
is just going over things for the week. One of the big things that we're going to discuss in the off season is we're going to put to an actual vote the super flex position for the off season. I'm a big fan of it, but
I will vote against.
But obviously, this is going to be a Democratic vote, and everybody's going to get to put their reasoning behind it. And I think that some people find it to be a more exciting thing. Like, I think it's going to make the league more exciting because it introduces 2 quarterbacks in a more interesting way. Other people find it that it's not necessary, and it's really going to ruin the league. But, hey, that is their opinion, and I'd love to hear it once we get to that point in the offseason. Otherwise, I want to say that
we could go more in depth with that later.
And otherwise, I want to just speak as the commissioner for a second that if you have any complaints about anything in the season, whether or not you put it in the actual chat or just directly to me, please let me know because I do look at everything. I try to make my best decision in a fair way to try to determine everything for fairness for each participant in the season. And I really would like to hear anything that anybody has suggestion-wise. And I do take it seriously. I don't just scoff it off if it might seem like it might be a joke. Because I do want to take everything intently because we have a lot of people playing in this, and people do really enjoy it.
And I'm going to say, let's impeach Jeff, but not convict him. Let's just impeach him. Let's just leave him like that. In all seriousness, I want to take this time in our inaugural podcast to thank our commissioner, Jeff. Just the humble man he is. He doesn't even mention he's commissioner until the end of the podcast. I'll say it for him. Sleeper was the best change we ever made as an app. I hope you guys agree with me. I think most of you will. My other league, I know you guys, most of you guys are probably in other leagues. Maybe some of you guys aren't. I use the SPM, my other league. I want to throw up every time I look at it after having used Sleeper. So I'll give Jeff a lot of credit for that. And he's a very open commissioner, so if you have a problem, you go to him. And we're going to have some good votes this offseason. I want to take a short time before we end the podcast to go over the current Sacco situation. We have a poll between a polar plunge, which we can decide as a group whether we want to make it officially sanctioned or whether we want to go to the on our own. Maybe perhaps Brendy return, jump in the LBI drink. But if not, maybe we could sign up for Long Island. They do their polar plunge. I think it's fun. It'll suck, but everybody can attend and watch. We have the second option, which is a Sports Illustrated body issue photo shoot. If you don't know what that is, it is a naked photo shoot for athletes that they take in Sports Illustrated with neither their cock nor ass showing. So it's very intimate photography.
Asshole showing. Their ass is definitely showing.
True that. I stand corrected. Third option, fat head, which I kind of like too, of the winner's face on the loser's wall for a year. So you guys decide. Make sure you get into Sleeper and vote. Thanks for joining us on this podcast. And I'll let my friend Jeff take it off here.
And we got one more word from our sponsor, actually, for this podcast.
Just want to do a quick sponsor, friend of the program. Bless them, really. Viagra. Viagra made this possible. We couldn't have done this without Viagra. This was brought to you by Viagra. Make your dicks hard. Never have a soft dick again. Always be ready for your girl. Never displease her.
Or man, we don't discriminate here.
We do not. Never displease her or him, and always maintain
Thank you.
a filthy mashed wine.
Have a good one.